Chewy oatmeal cookies packed with walnuts and chocolate chips are not only easy to make, but your family will love the combination of flavors.
So earlier it was pulled pork, and now Chef Bill Collins is going to make some irresistible cookies. I know they're irresistible because I've eaten 2 already.
Yes.
What? 2?
You haven't had any?
I had 1.
Oh, I've had 2. I'm pretty confident I'll have at least 4, which is bad news. How do we get here, though? How do you make the cookies?
Well, actually, it's really quite simple, and I just remembered I left them in the fridge. I'm going to step away here.
Oh, okay.
Feel free.
Well, he'll be back.
that.
Bill will be right back.
Time, they
The
are
reason
quite
I left
tasty.
them in the fridge is the hot lights here is you want your cookie dough to be chilled. So what I did was I took the classic chocolate chip cookie recipe and I added some oatmeal, added some walnuts, and I oomphed up what's already a classic. Now, I just mentioned having taken them out of the fridge. What you want to do is actually refrigerate the cookie dough for at least an hour, maybe even up to 8 hours or more.
So you could do it the night
Wow.
before.
Absolutely. And
So
I
it's
did,
going to take patience.
It does take patience because as much as you also want to eat the raw cookie dough, which you probably shouldn't do because of the raw
No.
eggs in there, but you want some patience because what this is going to do for you is it's going to bring the butter together, it's going to firm it back up, and then the second thing is it's going to kind of cut down on the gluten strands a little bit so you won't have a tougher cookie. If you were to scoop it straight away, right after mixing it, cookie would be a little bit flatter and maybe even a little bit tougher.
Well, I noticed
didn't
that
know
these
that.
were softer and fluffier tasting than a lot of the cookies that I make.
Yes, and actually there are 2 reasons for that. One is just as I mentioned, by chilling the dough, but the second one is, and where these are ready to come off of here now, is when you want to take a cookie out of the oven is not when it looks like it's ready to come out, but when it's still very golden on top and just a little golden baked ring of golden around the base of it.
Now everyone's getting a perfect shot of it right now.
Oh,
You
and
can
it's
see it's that
beautiful.
darker brown.
Just around the outside.
Just around the rim, just around the outside, because what's going to happen is you let it sit and continue to, to cool on the cookie sheet that it baked on, but it's still getting warmer. Because not only just if you take it off immediately, it still get warm, but the warmth from the pan continues to bake it.
It's
but at a
that-
cooler temperature.
It's that same principle as when you take a piece of meat off the grill.
That's exactly
It'll keep
it.
cooking. That's why you don't cut into it so soon.
And you want it to rest. That's exactly it. You want the meat to rest a little bit so it won't be as juicy. You don't have to worry about a juicy cookie. but,
Or you're making some weird cookies.
You get some very weird
But you
cookies.
want to worry about a too tough cookie.
You
Yeah.
do. And so you see how it's a nice golden brown on the bottom.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's
Yum.
Flip
nice.
this one over for everybody.
A perfect chocolate chip cookie.
Exactly. And I don't know if you noticed, I'm using one of these handy dandy little spatulas. And a friend gave me this to me, and you see them everywhere. And I thought, well, that's kind of dumb. I have a spatula. This is the best spatula in the world for cookies because you have a large one. You're getting in the way of the other cookies. If they're still warm on there, you can mash them. This is the perfect one with the metal edge, and especially if there's some melted chocolate in there, it just scoops everything right up.
On pans like these, you can do metal on metal, right?
Yes, you can, because this is not a non-stick pan.
Gotcha.
And I don't recommend using one because you really don't need one. It's not in that long. And also, the metal pan will help promote the browning. And the non-stick would not do that. That's why the non-stick cookie sheets are not as popular as the others. Also, you might notice that this is a cookie sheet as opposed to a sheet pan, where a sheet pan has the sides.
I was noticing that.
This is just a little bit more effective than the sides because the sides don't let the heat come right along the side. It kind of comes up over the top and down the sides. So this is actually more effective for browning and baking your cookies than a sheet pan with sides. If you only have sheet pans with sides, that's fine. This is just a little bit better.
All right then, Bill. Here's the cinch here, though. You've convinced me to buy a non-stick pan. However,
a stick pan.
A stick pan. I'm sorry, a stick pan.
Yes.
But how the heck do you clean these off when you get that cookie that's just baked on there?
It goes back to having the kind of sink. So really? Because you want to just soak it. Because just a few minutes, in your sink, so you want to make sure your sink is big enough to hold a sheet pan, and just let it
soak
soak
it?
in the sink just a couple of minutes. Because whatever's sticky on there, it was solid when it went into the oven. So that means it was the heat of the oven. Hot water on there, it'll just
Take it
clean
right
it
out.
right off.
Easy
All
enough.
right.
Yeah.
So we know how to bake them, but
Yes.
how do we make them? What's in
Make
this
them.
recipe?
This recipe, it's just the classic. It's got flour, brown sugar. Actually, I started out with just beating together butter and brown sugar and regular white sugar. Beat them all together so they're nice and smooth. Threw in the flour, a little baking soda, baking powder, and then oatmeal. Oats. Oatmeal implies it's already been cooked. So just throw in, you can use either the fine cut or the regular old-fashioned kind. I wouldn't go with steel cut because those might not get soft over time. So go with those two.
And it's going to make it just a little bit healthier, too, because you're going with the oats as opposed to just flour, right?
And this is about healthy, yes. So
Well, I just think it tastes better with the oats.
I
Do you
love
really?
oatmeal and chocolate chips are a
do.
great combo.
It is.
And then a whole bag, 12 ounces of chocolate chips went into here. and about a cup of walnuts, and so it's just packed with all kinds of great stuff.
I agree. And so if you wanted, and you were a chocoholic like me, could you put in 2 bags?
You could, and because it would be very gooey, and I don't think that would be a problem.
No.
I don't think so either.
There's no such thing as too much chocolate chips.
No, not at all. Now, one other thing I want to mention, too, and when baking these, is keep an eye on them, because some ovens vary, and so especially if you have a lot of chocolate chips in there, it's going to be gooier. Don't necessarily open the door. If you have a window in there, turn on the light and see how they're doing, because these bake quickly, about 11 minutes. But your oven might be 10 minutes, or if you go convection, about 9. So just keep an eye on it. Just don't go just by a recipe, because it's for such a short period of time. A minute or 2 could be the difference between a Chewy cookie and chipping a tooth on a cookie.
So we don't want
That's
that.
a big difference.
Don't want to do that.
Well, I cannot wait to say thank you very much, because then I'm going to eat a cookie.
His
Thank
third
you.
cookie.
My third cookie.
Third cookie.
We're just beginning, and we are going to make some sliders a little bit later in the show, and you can get all these recipes mymassappeal.com. Oh, we're a good cookie.
There you go.